Good afternoon, Tech Nation. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. We are excited to have nearly 200 registered attendees for today's webinar, which is eligible for 0.1 CE credits from the ACI. Let's get started by giving one lucky attendee a Tech Nation t-shirt for answering this trivia question. Name both of the hosts of this year's CMA Awards. Answer now using the questions feature on your dashboard. While you're answering, I want to remind everyone to mark your calendars for the upcoming MD Expo in Irvine, California, April 9th through the 11th, 2017. To receive more information about this and other upcoming events, including the educational lineup, schedule, and special events, sign up for our newsletter at mdexposhow.com. All right, and the winner of the Tech Nation t-shirt is Shane Kearney. Congratulations, Shane. The correct answer was Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood. Tech Nation would like to thank our sponsors, AllParts Medical in Dunlee. AllParts Medical, established in 2006 and acquired by Philips in 2011, is dedicated to servicing the needs of imaging service teams. For their 80,000 square foot Center of Technical Excellence in Nashville, Tennessee, they provide parts, sales, training, technical support, equipment disposition, services, equipment sales, and procurement management software. Please visit allpartsmedical.com for more information. For over 65 years, Dunlee's people, products, programs, and partnerships have shaped how images are made. Dunlee remains at the forefront of medical imaging as an international leader in research, design, and manufacturing of high replacement tubes for CT. Dunlee markets and distributes products to OEMs, service providers, and end users all over the world. Visit Dunlee.com for more information. Our presenters today are Steve Muniak, Regional Sales Manager for the Central Region, AllParts Medical in Dunlee, and Kevin Gill, Director of National Sales at AllParts Medical. Steve, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you. Great opening question. I live in Nashville now, and I didn't know who was hosting the CMAs next week. We are in a unique position in our profession in that we've had the opportunity to do many great things to ensure patient safety and reduce the cost of health care, all while doing this by providing quality uptime. As we talk about what the circular economy means to us as a profession, it's truly the opportunity to do all these things and do them in a very green way. So as we move through the slides, what does the circular economy mean? You know, when I was growing up, typically you would buy something, someone would manufacture something, you would take it, you'd make it and dispose of it. We did that with automobiles, we did that with televisions, we did that with clothing. And it's not very friendly with what we consider to be the circular economy. The basis of that, based on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, is preserving and enhancing natural capital. We've got limited resources out there. We're going to optimize the yields of those resources, and we're going to foster system effectiveness. We really want to use this to protect the capital assets that we have out there and maintain them, be the proper stewards of that, by making sure that we're taking care of all the resources, maximizing those resources we have available. How do we do this? What are the circular economy leaders that are out there? I was a backyard mechanic. I still wish I had the opportunity to work on cars, but they've gotten so complex. I've been doing this for a long time. Brake pads, they don't get tossed out. There's always been a core charge for those. We see that in our industry today. You take it up to larger capital things, bigger than cars. I was on an MD-80 last night. I was flying out to Lubbock, and that's where I'm at today. That chassis is 30 years old, and it's been excellently maintained. They're not in the present state. The seats are new. They're lighter weight, dropping down the fuel costs. There's Wi-Fi on the plane. The avionics have all been upgraded. That's an excellent example of some of the global mainstays in transportation that are taking advantage of this circular economy, maintaining a very expensive capital asset through the reuse recycle process, and also upgrades that keep that airplane in the air. We're seeing changes also. Where we used to throw out cell phones, we used to throw out computers, we're seeing more and more of these components being assembled with the ability to swap parts out, the ability to mine those precious metals that are in there a lot more easily for recycling. Plus, at the end of the day, we're engaged in this at a very high level from a clinical engineering perspective. We're the newest circular economy leaders. Now, what does that look like? So if we look at a CT. When a CT comes back to AllParts, looks just like this. There's a couple of things that we do from a circular economy perspective. There's the recycle component of this on the right side. You've got the cables, you've got the oil, and it used to be regulatory requirements forced us into recycling. That's changed today, especially from when we're bringing this type of equipment in. We're going through every single piece that we cannot remarket, which is on the left side, to make sure that it's broken down effectively and then sent to the proper recycling companies within the United States to put those precious resources back into the economy. How do we play from the clinical engineering side on the left side? It's that remarketing component. We see tanks and boards and columnators, detectors, all those things now being recycled to allow other CTs that are sitting in the hospitals, in those ERs, in those imaging centers, in those doctors' offices, to expand the life of that equipment, just like that MVA we talked about earlier. So as we start to look at remarketed parts, let's talk a little bit about how these parts are defined, part definitions. From an OEM perspective, yes, they do the manufacturing. But we all know that as we're replacing parts from OEM equipment, we get those parts from the OEM, we're setting those cores back. And that's an excellent example of those parts being remarketed. They're brought back to the OEM, they're repaired, they are tested on the machines, they're sent back out to us. And so they're participating in the circular economy. Replacement parts from the OEMs are typically the highest price in this circular economy, how we source our parts. But in some cases, we have no options. We look at Toshiba, Siemens X-ray tubes. There really are not good alternatives for that, but there are many, many other opportunities in the marketplace for remarketed parts. Looking at the next slide. Replacement. So another starting point, replacement, again, are manufacturers that are putting these products into the market. They are a new part from an alternate manufacturer. You typically see a lower price point. They provide the same form, fit, and function as the OEM part in most cases. And there are tons and tons of examples of this in the biomedical marketplace. We've seen these for years. We've seen skins, we've seen covers, we've seen handles. All those things are available from replacement vendors. From an imaging perspective, vendors like Dunlee and Varian are great examples of providing replacement parts as well. Brand new, in form, fit, and function. But again, there's a caveat on these. It's always, you've got to make sure that you're asking questions. Is this truly an identical part? Does it truly provide the same function? And does it give you the same longevity as other parts that are available in the marketplace? Next up in that continuum is refurbish. Refurbish has a very specific meaning, and there's a definition that's being floated out there for approval right now. It's the process or combination of processes applied during the expected service life to restore or use medical imaging equipment to a condition of safety and effectiveness comparable to when new. So that sounds great. We see refurbished parts in the marketplace, but how does it compare to this definition? And so you have to start to ask the questions. What process occurs to refurbish that part, Mr. Vendor? Are you using aftermarket or non-OEM components? That could be good or bad. But you need to ask those questions and understand that. Has a part been unaltered in any way? Has it been changed in the form, fit, function for that which it's supposed to perform? Does that part remain safe? How do you prove that out? What are the environmental conditions when this refurbishing has occurred? Is this in a clean shop? Are there static guards? All the things that you have to put together to make sure that you're refurbishing it to work properly when it's installed at your site. If you don't know these questions, you need to be sure to ask. The next up is tested. This is typically a great value in the supply chain. But you have to ask, what does tested mean? Was it tested in the field? Was it bench tested? Was it tested and repaired on a live system? There's other questions you need to ask as well. How many cycles are appropriate for testing? What are the conditions of that testing being occurred? And again, just like we talked about with refurbished, if you don't know the answer to these questions, you need to ask. And from a part condition, the last is used, and this is typically the lowest cost, but always caveat emptor. I used to work for a guy who said, with great risk comes great reward, and he was talking about used parts at that point. You can save a tremendous amount of money on used parts, but you have to understand, again, the conditions. And, you know, in some cases, I've seen some places that are pretty nasty. They've got systems sitting in parking lots. Not all, but, you know, and there are guys that out there who do this, but there are also vendors out there who are selling very high-quality used parts. But you have to understand where in the spectrum of OEM, replacement, refurbished, tested, and used, where does it really lie within that spectrum? What diligence has been put into making sure that you've got the right part that's going to function properly and solve the problems that you're trying to correct? So, as you start to ask these questions of your vendor through a vendor evaluation, so let's talk about the source of parts from an OEM and the replacement market. Something about OEM that we really need to understand as an industry, and that is the vendor you're purchasing that OEM part licensed to resell that product in the United States? We know that there's gray market parts floating around throughout the United States and all over the world. But the real question is, when that part comes up, if that part fails, how is that warranty going to be honored? And how is that return process going to occur? Because what happens there is, if there's a glitch in that warranty, if there's a glitch in that return, you've got a down machine. Whereas if you're buying from the OEM, you're buying from a licensed dealer, you know that very quickly they can get you a replacement part and they can honor those warranties and make sure that's returned properly. The second is with replacement parts. And I stressed this earlier. Is that part an exact replacement in form, fit, function? And also, will this impact current warranties on the equipment? In most cases, putting a replacement part has no impact on the warranty because this machine is typically out of the OEM warranty at that point. And it doesn't typically impact the ability for the OEM to come and service that in the future. But these are good questions you need to ask your vendors as you're talking about from the OEM and replacement markets. As we look at the refurbished, tested, and used, some questions to ask here. How is the equipment installed and transported? You know, most of these products that are coming into this section are from harvested equipment. Where is that equipment stored? How are these parts removed from the device? Are they removed with the proper tools? Are they removed by the person with the proper experience? How are they stored after harvest? And what's happening to the waste product from the harvested machine? As I mentioned earlier, from an AllParts perspective, 80,000 pounds of recycled material left our docks this year and got sent to the proper recyclers. We don't let anything go to waste. We participate fully in the circular economy because we do it because green is good. It's the right thing to do. Plus, there's a revenue stream for that as well. It makes sense. And I apologize. The bullet for my specific to use market dropped off. What I wanted to say there was, how do you verify the part and the function of the part was truly operational prior to harvest? So if somebody's selling you a used part, how do you verify that it really worked before it harvested? But equally as important is, how do you verify that the part and the function of that part was truly operational after harvest? Questions you need to ask of your vendors. So, who really is your vendor is another thing that you have to understand. Because the true source of that part affects a number of things. First is transportation costs. How many stops will that part make before it hits your dock? Because this cost is passed on to you. Multiple freight hops. Who processes warranties and exchanges? Will the guy selling you the part honor that warranty? And is that warranty consistent from part to part to part? Or are you dealing with somebody on the back end who has different warranties? What's the quality processes that does the guy selling the part follow? Is it a documented system? Is it based on a QMS components that are actionable? And then last is, what's motivating the reseller here? Is it part quality and patient safety, or is it margin? The one thing I can tell you from our experience at AllParts is this. Delivering a less than 3% warranty rate in this third-party market takes discipline and investment. In order to drive part quality, you make an investment, and that changes the margins. But we believe strongly in that. When we're selling our parts, that they need to be as high price quality possible, and fit everything that you need from a form, fit, and function perspective. So who are the people that participate in this? Of course, we've got the OEMs, all the big guys that are out there. We got high quality parts. From a Phillips perspective, from all these guys, they really do understand the circular economy model. We've got some of the folks that are replacement part vendors, and from a managing perspective, you've got Dunlee, Varian, and AI, all high quality parts, all participating in this economy as well. As you start to look at distributors, you've got folks like PartSource, Southeast, and .med. .med just doesn't do publishing. They have a very, very effective site out there today for selling used equipment and used parts. And then the last is the reduce, reuse, site recycle vendors that we've talked about. There's AllParts, there's Bear, there's Block Imaging. And also you've got the grandfather of all this is Ed Sloan and Sloan Associates out of Nashville, Tennessee as well. These are folks that are out there that are doing a great job of bringing those remarketed products back in, remanufacturing, refurbishing, testing, and reselling those back into the marketplace to help keep our capital equipment alive. So how do you leverage this? You say, okay, I want to participate. I want to be green. I want to find a way to start to keep my capital equipment alive. A couple of things you need to do to determine this. One, you have to figure out where you're going to have the largest impact. We all have a specific amount of headcount we have to work with. Where can we start to put dollars for training that's going to give us the biggest impact? What skills are required to get there? And then what are the terms of our current support contracts, and how do we start to put together that roadmap to move away from those contracts into a self-supported model? Second thing is you've got to go out and you've got to envision the leadership team. You've got to envision your CFO, you've got to envision the docs, you've got to envision the directors of radiology, you've got to envision the nurses, whoever's out there responsible for this equipment. And you've got to envision your boss as well. And with those things, you can establish a budget. Specific to the impact analysis, Biomed's got plenty of opportunity. We see lots and lots of very great biomed guys that are out there. There's a tremendous amount of replacement market products out there from a biomed perspective. There's high volume, but from a biggest bang for the buck, it's in imaging. And that's because our contracts are so high. And we know from studies that what the contracting prices can be on this, those can be reduced significantly by moving this in-house and taking advantage of this, the circular economy, this reuse recycle process. Second part of this is what's out there from imaging. Right now, you have a number of vendors out there, and I mentioned some of them earlier, that focus on GE, Siemens, and Philips, and they're doing a fantastic job of providing parts for MR, CT, Mammo, General Rad, OECC arms. So if you're running that equipment, you've got the opportunity to participate in this. And there's other manufacturers, modality support in the niche market, and those guys are out there. They make themselves known pretty well. So what else do you need to do? You need to do skills development, and there's tons of training opportunities in the marketplace. Lots of people doing training for imaging and biomed. Questions to ask as you send your guys to training is, how's the training delivered? Is it classroom? Are you doing hands-on? How often is it delivered? Because it doesn't make any sense if you got an OEC class once every 12 months. What's the feedback? We're a close-knit community. Who's doing a good job for training out there? Is the curriculum published ahead of time? Do you know what you guys are going to learn? And then what type of support materials and documentation is provided at the end of that training? And the last thing that is really critical to this in terms of enabling your teams is technical support. You need something more than parts ID. You need version levels. You need downstream impact, the parts that are needed. You need because it's costly to support this. If you've got vendors out there that can provide this type of information for you, these guys see it much more often than the techs are going to see it. B, they're going to know all the impacted systems and components that could be causing this failure and stop us from generating all these false negatives as we're doing our analysis. And last, C, You're going to build relationships with these guys, and they're going to, with those tech support guys, and they're going to pass that learning on to your team as well. So in summary, you know, again, we're growing up just about everything. Just we'd use it, we toss it in the trash. Now we're going more towards the reuse, repair, recycle environment, and that's an opportunity to make this part of your supply chain DNA. There's tremendous cost savings that can be had by taking advantage by moving towards this model. Again, we have all of these large capital investments in our imaging equipment, our biomedical equipment. This is the opportunity to keep those investments alive, making sure that A, we have excellent uptime for our patients, and B, we're doing the right thing for the economy. Again, green is good. So to get there, choose your vendors carefully. Somebody who aligns with your culture, the costs, the quality of services that you need. You've got to do your homework with this. Again, close-knit community. We all go to AMI. We all go to the trade shows. Talk to your peers out there. They've got great ideas on how to take advantage of this. Talk to your vendors as well. So from a Phillips Dunlee and AllParts perspective, I mentioned earlier, we really do embrace the circular economy as a way of doing business. That's what we do. Again, from a Phillips perspective, we've got our century of innovation and entrepreneurship. Moving on to the next slide. From a Dunlee perspective, we provide high-quality tube replacement tubes for GE CTs, Siemens CTs. We're an ISO certified organization, provide free technical support. And then from an AllParts perspective, we provide robust FSC training. Again, we're an ISO certified organization. When we harvest parts, we do it properly. We do it in environmentally controlled environments with a highly defined process. We do part testing. We have over 100 test bays with less than a 2% warranty, and we provide technical support available to anybody who calls. If you're interested in learning more about the, one more slide, sorry. We do carry an Image Plus. If everybody remembers our No campaign from last fall, the Image Plus is an extension of that. Representations the Phillips OEM pricing, opportunity for less restock fees, and parts procurement software. So if you're interested to learn more about the circular economy, we do have a white paper written by Jim Sammons. My contact information is on the next slide. Go ahead and shoot me an email. We can make sure you get a copy of this. And at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions.
Great. Thank you, Steve. We have had a couple questions come through during your presentation, but we want to remind everyone that you can use your dashboard feature on the right-hand side and submit questions to us. We'll try and get to as many as we can today. The first one, though, to kick off the question section is, would not all third parties be green? Why is your approach different?
We talked about that earlier in that you have to embrace this. It takes a capital investment in some cases to put together the tooling and train the people on how to strip down that equipment to get it down to those bare recyclables. And it depends on the culture of the organization as well.
Okay, thank you. Looking through the questions here, the second one, how do you know if your supplier has a green back end to their production process?
Again, you've got to ask the questions. So as you're working with your vendors, you really have to go through and interrogate on how they operate. Site visits are great. Getting out to see your vendors, I highly recommend it. One, you end up learning a ton about how they operate. You get to see machines being stripped down, and two, it also builds out the relationship a little bit better. So it's really you've got to go out there and ask a lot of questions and build that trust and build a relationship with your vendors.
Okay, thank you. The next question we have here, what modalities are the best to start with?
That's a good question. From a training perspective, ease of entry for your techs, we all know the biomeds is a great place. There's tremendous technical schools out there, graduating guys and women out there with electronics degrees, electrical engineering degrees. That's good bread and butter. They do an outstanding job of taking care of the majority of this equipment that's on the floor. But in terms of impacting your bottom line, it's imaging. And in order to hit that, let's take a look at, again, that envisioning process that we talked about, that impact analysis. Finding the right guys is hard, but when you do, making sure that you get them trained properly and give them access to the correct technical support to help them be successful as they're going through this learning process.
Steve, what we see often is portables, C-arms, and ultrasound as the entry point, as companies want to do more of the service work with their own people. And then they evolve from there and mature from there. And there's a lot of companies out there that can help you get on that path.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, thank you, guys. The next question we have here, what about the OEM warranty and service? Doesn't the installation of non-OEM parts impact how we get our equipment serviced?
It does not. Typically, it does not. Now, let me define that a little bit better. Under warranty, you're typically not going to go in and make a replace a part. It's under warranty. You're going to get an OEM part, and typically you're going to have an OEM service guy do this. When we're talking about so outside of warranty, these parts are identical in form, fit, and function. They have no impact on how the machine operates, and there's no issues going forward on serviceability of these machines.
Okay, another question that came through, what about warranty rates? How often is there a failure?
Again, you have to ask your vendor about that and how do they track it. From an AllParts perspective, again, we're a ISO regulated organization. Everything we do is documented. We have a documented warranty rate of less than 3% today. And we can tell you, and as parts come back, we also have an extensive QA process that goes through. We put them back on the machine, we test them for the functionality to diagnose what went wrong. Not only what went wrong, is the part broken, but what went wrong with our processes to allow this part to go through. Each vendor is going to have their own rigor that they have to adhere to ensure their warranty rates.
Okay. Next question here. My team has not been trained past providing first look support. Then we have the OEM come in and install their parts. How can I get them better training and support?
Again, start to talk to the training vendors that are out there. We've got all the great trade publications that are out there. They're advertised. AllParts, we offer training. And we not only train hospital employees and ISO employees, we also do all the training for Philips. That's one of the reasons that this was a great purchase by Philips from purchasing AllParts, is being able to bring that training to the Philips organization. So we, from an AllParts perspective, we do an outstanding job of training on multiple vendors. We call it multi-vendor imaging equipment. So ask around. We went through those questions earlier about making sure that the training's defining what's going to be included in the training, what the feedback from previous attendees are. What do you get at the end of the day as well? Are you getting manuals? Are you getting some type of instruction set that your techs can take home with them, and then also have access back to technical support?
Great, thank you. One more question here. Is your green initiative profitable?
That's a good question. I'm gonna punt to Kevin on that one. Kevin's on the line because it's a good question.
I can handle it, Steve. The answer is yes, and it wasn't always that way. As we've matured, see, you asked a question earlier. Actually, your first two questions relate to this last question. It's the degree of green. What shade of green are you? By nature, a third-party company is green because they're instead of putting a collimator in a landfill, they're selling it back into the marketplace. So that is a green act. But what are they doing on that right side of the CT that was on Steve's slide? All those components, all that metal, all that plastic, that oil, where is that going? And at first, Steve said we were regulated to take care of the oil, as an example. So it was more of a cost. But as we started to really mature the process, break down the systems more intelligently, then we were able to get value out of the copper and get value out of the metals and get value out of the boards and whatnot that we weren't going to sell back into the marketplace. So downstream, you get to a darker, nicer shade of green than if you're just simply parting a system out, selling the high failure parts, and then dumping the rest of the machine into a landfill. So, and that's why what Steve said is true. You really have to put eyes on this stuff. You really need to do a site visit, talk to that vendor, see what their process is, and understand what's going on with the non-marketable componentry within that asset. And if you see them taking a very robust and comprehensive approach to finding a home for all those components that can be valuable to other people in the ecosystem, then you've got a good partner that's doing the right thing, and that's adding more value to what we do every day, which is all about patient safety and cost reduction.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, thank you, guys. That is, I think, going to wrap up the questions that have come through. We're getting close to the end of time today. If anybody does submit questions and we didn't get to them, rest assured that AllParts will get a copy of the questions submitted and can reach out to you directly to answer those. We want to go ahead and thank Steve and Kevin once again for presenting today. And today's sponsors, AllParts Medical Dunlee. One lucky attendee will win lunch for their whole department. Details are included in the post-webinar survey, which will appear on your screen shortly. You must complete the survey to obtain your certificate of attendance. If you do not see the survey, please email us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, MD Publishing.